Suzanne, it is February 24th, 2022, and I am very excited to say that I've been in Vegas all week and I'm still alive. What do you think about that?
It's pretty awesome. I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah, well, you should be because we're having a great time here.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. I, of course, am Glenn Hausman. I got with us sitting in again, Dr. Producer Suzanne. Suzanne, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. I want to apologize to everyone out there for drinking coffee on air. Usually I try to keep those things secret, but honestly, I'm having way too much fun over here at Resorts World. I've got to dig deep into the reserves today there, Suzanne.
But for you, it's only 9 o'clock. So I think today we'll cut you a little slack. It's okay.
Yeah, well, usually in these sorts of circumstances, I'm like, I could get through the 1 hour on the show, then I could pack up the gear and go take a nap. But I've got some meetings and I'm shooting some original content later this afternoon. So I've got to dig deep, Suzanne, because I'm also going to an NEWH event tonight where we're going to get a back of house tour over here at Resorts World. So I'm pretty excited about that.
You just keep the dates and the events rolling. You've just got a jam-packed schedule.
This has been the craziest week. I didn't even expect it. Last night, our good friends over at AHOA happened to be having a board meeting over here by coincidence. So I got to hang out with them last night. I got to hang out with some industry friends that are in town for this NEWH thing. So I thought I was going to be cast aside all alone here. But then I had a great group of people to hang out with. So that was
you're pleasantly surprised.
Yes, I am pleasantly surprised. I'll tell you what else I'm pleasantly surprised about. This is my third visit now here to Resorts World Las Vegas. And the first time I was here for the opening, it was amazing. And I stayed at the Las Vegas Hilton. When I was here in December, I had a great speaking engagement with the Nevada Hotel and Lodging Association. And I got to stay at their Ultra Luxe Crockford's property, which is amazing. And now I'm getting to test run the third and final component, the Conrad Hotel. So I'm getting a really good sense now of all elements of this property over here. And it's just so much fun to see how it's come together since opening in June of last year.
It's pretty exciting. It's the best way to test out the market each time you trying something different to get that experience.
Right. Now, I'll tell you what, Resorts World has done plenty for me, but they're also trying to do plenty for the community. And we're going to be doing 3 different interviews today. And for the first one, we're going to be talking to our friend, Lori Calderon. She's the Executive Director of Community Engagement. You might remember her when she was running HR and filled all the positions before this place opened. Then we're going to be speaking with Executive Chef Devin Hashimoto, talking about the food and beverage program. And I'm really looking forward to speaking with Michael Waltman. He's the Executive Director of Zook Operations, and he has a company that has all of the nightlife, the clubs, and some great food and beverage offerings as well. So let's kick this off today because we got so many guests, so little time. Lori Calderon, Executive Director of Community Engagement. Lori, so great to see you again.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. This is so much fun. So I'm excited that you started this community engagement position. What a fun way to transition from running HR over here, but it must have been so much fun. And I remember when we had you on the show a couple of times prior to opening to be able to staff the most exciting new project here in Las Vegas.
It was such an exciting project.
Yeah.
You know, it's my 5th large resort opening, so I'm a little crazy.
Wow.
But it is such a challenge, and it really is an amazing thing because, you know, you can have a gorgeous building. You can have the best rooms, but if you don't have the best people, nothing will come to life. And
Right.
It really is about getting the right people and having a process that really identifies who they are.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what made you transition to community engagement?
Our president here, Scott Sabella, you know, supporting the community and being an active part of our community, especially being a brand that's new to our city, is
Right.
really important to him. So he actually asked me to transition into this role because he really felt that it was important to have a concentrated focus on community engagement.
Right. That makes a whole lot of sense. Suzanne?
Certainly. I think especially that grassroots kind of component, when you're that first new brand or that property, you've got to be able to let your community know. So I'm excited to hear what you're doing.
Yeah, good. Ask the question then.
Oh, what is it that you are doing to
There
connect
you
with the
go.
community?
I'm so glad you asked. So, you know, one thing that we have to realize is we are a single entity. So
Right.
it can't be all to everything. And I really believe that it's better to underpromise and overdeliver. I think it's so important to be able to deliver upon your promise,
Right.
and our organization does too. So for us, we went through what we feel is the most important at this time, and we identified some 4 core pillars, if you will,
Right.
which is volunteerism, our philanthropy, our donations or our contributions, education, meaning that it's important for us to be able to share with the community who we really are.
Right.
And I don't just mean like the red building at the end that has like this crazy screen that you can see all the way from Henderson,
Right.
but I mean who we are, like what's in our hearts, what means the most to us, what is our culture like, and what are our values.
Right.
And also for our team members, I really felt that it's important for our team members to learn more about what's going on in our community and what people are struggling with. You know, we tend to, as humans, complain about traffic or, you know, not having the best shift or whatever.
Or how about that I get frustrated that the lines are too long when I visit casino resorts for coffee.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So when they learn, you know, things like every 30 seconds,
Right.
someone becomes a victim of human trafficking, or we have, you know, 60 plus, we have 20% of people who are dealing with struggles of not having enough food. It puts things into perspective.
Right. It really does. And, you know, in Lori's role here, she oversees all the charitable efforts, donations, diversity and inclusivity efforts, and a whole lot more. And you do all this stuff under the banner of World of Difference, right? So,
Right.
what you just started this job in 2021. So you're probably ramping up, figuring it all out. This is going to be your year to really try to make an impactful difference here within the community. What are some of the things then you're going to be working on when it comes to purpose-filled and engagement that's benefiting your team and the community?
Yeah, a great question. So we have gone through and spoken to and met with and toured different charitable organizations, facilities, and we have identified our core partners for 2022.
Right.
And with those organizations, it's really important for us to build the relationships and engage in the community and get our culture used to being an active part of our community. And that is something we're really working toward. And we've had such a great response already. Our key leaders are more than in support of this. And it really is just sort of building the relationships and really getting out into the community so we have that presence and people recognize us as individuals as part of our brand.
Right. Did you want to say something there, Dr. Producer Suzanne?
No, I think that's a fantastic way to really go about it, to really get that educational component out there for everyone. It's awesome.
Right. And it's also just so essential to be an involved member of the community. It's really start to create a virtuous circle. You know, you're here, you're employing a lot of people, you're helping drive the economy, but at the same time, it's really great that you want to make sure that those people that aren't able to participate in what you're doing here are able to, you know, get solutions to make their lives a little bit better. So when you're focusing on like the health and wellness support organizations, what are you thinking in regards to there? And I want everybody to know in a little while, we're going to be talking about the first ever vegan restaurant coming to the strip. And that, while that plays a little bit into health and wellness, that's not necessarily what we're talking about right now.
Right. You know, for health and wellness, I think we have to look at it both in the physical body and also mental health.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that we are looking to do for both. It's unfortunate that we have almost 14% of our population here who are uninsured.
Jesus.
So we have people who just don't have the resources for any preventive care. So we are partnering with different charitable organizations who are out in the community and offering these different testing and services for these folks, because, you know, anything even like cancer, it's something if you can detect early, there's a lot of chance or a high chance or probability that it can be, you know, resolved and cured. But it's a problem with people who are trying to decide, do I buy food or do I go and get a diagnostic test? And so I don't think really that should be a choice. It should be something that in this city and in this community in the US that we should just be able to have.
Yeah, it really frustrates me that no matter what administration is in the White House, we can't seem to figure out at a national or state level how to get through this healthcare issue. It's absolutely ridiculous that people have to make those types of decisions. And I see that particularly amongst older people when it comes to the expensive prices of medication, for example. Are they going to eat dinner? Or are they going to get that pill that's going to keep them alive? So that's a really important pillar. One of the other things that you're working on is that diversity inclusivity efforts. What does that really mean to you, and how are you making sure that it's not lip service and you're actually making a difference here in this community?
Right. And I think that it's so important to recognize people for who they are.
Right.
I'm a female over 40. I'm Hispanic.
Right.
I have a lot of experiences that I bring to the table,
Right.
as well as other people. And I think it's important to listen and to really hear people. So I think that we want to make sure that our team members and our customers have a voice, and that we're not just sort of just participating in a silent way, but we're hearing what they say and we're taking that to heart. And I think that's a good first step. And then also in the community, we want to make sure that all of our efforts are inclusive and have all these different demographics and organizations who are fantastic represented in everything that we do, and that we're an active part of what they do as well.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I absolutely love that you're really focused on this giving back to the community. But how are you empowering your team here at Resorts World to be an active role within the community as well?
So what we do is, we have to recognize that people will contribute in different ways.
Yeah.
Not everyone can get out and volunteer. For example, I was talking to one of our facilities team members yesterday, because when I see team members, anytime I come across them, I talk to them, and he wants to volunteer, but he works 2 jobs. So for someone like him, making opening the opportunity to go out and do a volunteer event can be challenging.
Right.
So we have other ways. We have donation drives. Right now we have a donation drive going on that supports our senior citizens. They also, in addition to having trouble with medications, they can't afford things like hygiene products and, household items, like simple things like toilet paper and deodorant. And so we have a donation drive for that. We also have things that we do and we support, like the Las Vegas Hotel and Association. And we are doing walks and runs. So maybe you are someone who would like to get out and do a walk, or volunteer, or do donations. There's lots of different avenues. So whatever it is that works for you is what works for us.
Yeah, that's great.
And I always love that opportunity when we give people the chance to give in different ways. It's not always just financial. And it really seems like you're touching on all of those pillars to make it so that everybody has an opportunity to do that fit based on what they're capable of.
Yeah, and it's really, I think, Laurie, important to get in there with your hands, because that really connects you to the issues. It's really great that there are people out there who could write those big checks, but when you get in there and you actually experience it, I think that's probably where real meaningful differences come for both people's lives, those being helped and those helping with the assistance.
That is such a good point. And we don't ask our team members for money. The company takes care of that.
Right.
We ask them for their time.
Right.
And we've had so many experiences. We do different events. We do events that provide new shoes for kids, kids that have never had shoes. And the experience of being down on the ground and helping a little 7-year-old put on their first new pair of tennis shoes is something that is so, I just got chills.
Right.
It's
I'm getting chills that you're
I'm
getting chills that you're being able to do this, but I'm also a little disgusted that we're in a situation where you have to be the one to do this.
You're right. And when I was there, just a quick little story.
Yeah.
It was a little girl, and I love it because they want to hold your hand, and they want that touch and that connection. And she was telling me that her brother shares his shoes with his cousin, and his cousin wears them at night when he goes to work, and then the brother wears them to school during the day.
Oh, gosh.
And I just thought, holy cow! And these are the things that people, and our team members included, they need to know these things are happening in our community.
Right.
Because when you do, I think you're more inclined to want to do something.
Yeah. I'm really just shocked by that, because it's like I don't even think about that sort of stuff. It never even comes into my realm, not because I'm trying to be selfish. It's almost like it's a separate universe from the one that the 3 of us get to live in.
100%. Well, you're busy complaining about the long lines.
Listen.
Isn't that the truth?
Can't we just speed up the lines at the Starbucks? That's all I'm saying.
Yes. But you are so right. We don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And part of my goal is to expose the team members to what's really happening out there.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. So you also work with Make-A-Wish Foundation?
We do.
I thought most kids wanted to go to Disney World, not go play craps here at Resorts World, but I guess that's up to them.
Disney, I think, is a very popular
Yeah.
option. We actually have a family that is arriving today. And their initial wish was to go to Hawaii, but the little boy has terminal cancer and his time is very close. And so he is coming here. We're going to make the experience as positive and fantastic as possible. As I started to plan this, I started to think about what a 12-year-old would go through if they were losing their best friend. And it's just hard to fathom, or what a mom and dad.
I can't even fathom.
Right?
The thought of it just like makes me so sick.
Well, I've had my moments of shedding tears, to be quite frank and honest with you. And we are, and it just so happens the little boy's birthday is tomorrow. So, we're going to make it a special. We're going to check all of their worries and concerns at the door. We'll hold them for them, and we're going to let them come in here and just have some peaceful time together where they can have some fun. Right. And then, once this is done, obviously the reality is still there. Yeah. But we just want to give them this opportunity to make these special memories.
And for the mom and dad to even have a few more moments to see the joy on that child's face and maybe forget for a moment of what they're actually going through is just so, I think, important. That's why I love that charity Give Kids the World down in Orlando. And so many hotel companies, focus on that as well, because that really gives the families a chance to go away for a meaningful period of time in that Disney World environment. So what are some of the things that you could do for children here that doesn't feel too Vegas-y?
Well, there's a lot of things. Yeah. So, for us, one of the most important things is that we're supporting our local community. Right. So our efforts and our money goes here locally. And for us, again, like with this little boy, he wanted Hawaii. So he can't go to Hawaii. They can't make it to Hawaii. So we're going to bring Hawaii to them. So you're going to talk to Chef Devin Hashimoto.
Yes, I think Chef's here now. So we'll be bringing him on in a minute or two.
Perfect timing. So he is from Hawaii, and he's going to do this incredible menu. It's going to be a Hawaiian luau. We have entertainers. We have dancers. They aren't even going to know that they're in a casino resort.
That's
They'll have
awesome.
No idea. So, we have, when they arrive today, I have superheroes because he's into superheroes. I have the VGK Vivas. We have his room decorated. So really, that casino piece of it isn't necessary. It's even to acknowledge it isn't even necessary to make this wish come true. Right. It's all about, we believe that through our collective efforts, we can make a positive difference one heart at a time. And that's really what our goal is.
Lori, this is such a big change for you, going towards this direction. What ultimately motivated you to move from what you knew and were an expert at to something like giving back to the community?
Well, when Scott made that mention, I realized that there really was a need for this. And to be honest with you, a lot of the partners that I work with in the recruitment world, they are part charitable organizations, and they just have the employment piece as an arm. Right. So I knew a lot of the people. I've been in the community for a very long time. And as I got into it, and I'm not going to lie, when I first stepped over into this role, I felt like I gave up my child. Right. But then I realized that the person who was working for me had the opportunity to move up and to grow, which is fantastic. And for me, as I started this role, I realized that this is really where I was supposed to be. I feel like this is something that is my passion. I feel like this is something that I can and want to do for the rest of my career. And I just believe, like I said, that everything that I do, I have a chance to make a difference. And I want others to realize that they do too. We're all the same, and we have that potential if we tap into it.
That's absolutely incredible and beautiful. Lori, now I know a lot of people out there are saying, hey, how could I get involved in these things? What could they do either to help you in your efforts or do something within their own communities to give back?
Well, let's talk about first if you in your own community. So one thing that we do here at Resorts World is we encourage our team members to include their family and friends and including their children. It's important for you to teach your children, and I don't have kids, so it's important for me to support the efforts that you have to teach your children how important it is to help other people. And the other thing is that, in your local communities, you can look online, search charitable organizations. Right. I think the key is finding an organization that is something that you're passionate about. And if you don't know, go and meet with them. Go to different events and opportunities and see what really piques your interest and what you feel, not just participate in, but what do you feel is something that you could do and do well and you can contribute. And then here with Resorts World, they can certainly reach out to me. My email address is lori.calderon@rwlasvegas.com. We will be, like I said, partnering with our core organizations for 2022. And then 2023, we will evaluate those relationships to see if we're going to make any changes or additions and see how our process and our initiative grows.
Beautiful. Lori, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. And I hope you get to come back again and share more of your stories in the future. Good luck with what is, I'm sure, going to be extremely emotional couple of days for everyone over here.
Well, thank you for having me. I really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thanks,
we think you're amazing, Lori. Thank you.
Bye.
So that was really great. So we're going to reset. We're going to bring in Chef over here. But you know what? What a week this has been, Suzanne. I mean, we started out talking to Sean Christie, the CEO of Carver Road Hospitality. That's got the great new steakhouse that's over here.
Have you tried the steakhouse yet?
I'm going on Friday. After Friday night audit, we're going to be going over there because we got Brian Bass, Chief Marketing Officer, joining us. You know, then we had Dawn Burrell, an Olympic athlete turned Top Chef finalist, turned, a great chef and giving back to the community as well. And then yesterday we had on Rob Smith with Aimbridge Hospitality. And then we also had today Lori, and we're going to be bringing in Devin right now. He's on his way over us. You know, one of the things I like over here, I got to tell you, Suzanne, is the eating has been great. And I've been trying my best strictly for research purposes to make sure that I eat absolutely everywhere. Chef, please sit down, put the headphones on.
I'm missing out because I was with Anthony all day yesterday and he didn't even get me lunch.
What? That is cruel. All right. Welcome into the show. Executive Chef of Resorts World Las Vegas, Devin Hashimoto. Chef, great to see you, sir.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Yeah, this is great. Now, you're doing great looking at that camera. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So, Devin, I don't know where to start on this, but maybe I should start talking about the incredible collection of foods you have over here. And in your role, you're overseeing everything from all of the stuff that I guess is downstairs, plus the conferences and stuff as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. So I am the executive chef for the property here at Resorts World, oversee all the restaurants, also for the convention, catering convention sales department as well.
Wow.
Just, guiding the chefs with seasonal menu changes, restaurant, new restaurant conceptualizations, chef training, and pretty much the daily overall
that's pretty
day-to-day
cool,
operations.
Yeah, did you ever think that you'd be a guy doing something like this? This is such I mean, come on. This place is huge and there's so many food and beverage outlets. It's insane.
It's a lot. It's definitely, I had the opportunity to work at smaller restaurants throughout my career. And then opportunity came up here at Resorts World, and it was now or never, right?
For sure.
You just gotta take on that challenge and be, take all what you've learned and encompass it all into one big operation. It's truly amazing.
It really is truly amazing. So let's start with stuff that I know over here.
Well, I was going to say, I would like to know kind of the scope of how many outlets there are and what are you seeing in terms of number of guests that you're serving, to give our viewers an understanding that aren't really seeing your property because you have so many outlets.
So total and combined food and beverage outlets, we have 42. Right around 42 outlets. Yeah,
I don't even remember which ones you have.
Can I please have the list?
We have to kind of go through.
Yeah,
have here at Famous Foods. It's a little bit challenging, but again, we have our Resorts World owned branded restaurants. We have our partnership restaurants and also our leased restaurants. So it's the volume. That's a great question. I'd say on a weekly basis we could push anywhere at least 1,000, maybe 1,500 total. But Banquets just talking a whole nother level.
Oh yeah,
because this past Sunday we did a 1,300 on Saturday night, a reception in the morning. We did a lunch, that same 1,300. So Banquets and catering banquets is a total another.
That is a totally different animal, particularly since to stick on that side for a minute, you really have to create foods that are very different than they were 10 years ago. Unfortunately, I was just at a conference that the meals that they served, I swear, came out of 1988. Like,
I think that was Velveeta sauce you had on that chicken.
yeah, I don't have the picture readily to bring up here, but the sauce was like this bright yellow orangey thing that I don't think appears in nature. The whole thing really upset me. But you've got to serve 1,300 meals, but you're not just serving 1,300 pieces of the chicken. You've now got to be worried about all sorts of different diets. You have to worry about vegetarian, pescatarians, what I'm going to start calling myself a reductionism-tarian. I don't want to commit to anything. I just like to eat a little bit less meat or something like that. How do you prepare for all of these different elements?
I think it just comes with years of experience, right? And seeing how the trends have evolved. Obviously, you mentioned them all, right? Plant-based, right? People eating a lot healthier, the keto diets, the low carb, then you have to consider the allergies, right? Celiacs, or whether they're just kind of being gluten-free, gluten-friendly. So there's a lot to consider. To your point, it's not just chicken for 1,300. You have to look at the canapes, the reception portion of it, in your first course, your salad, right? Then your main course, then your desserts, and trying how not to, replicate. Say you had shrimp or beef tartare on your canapes, on your salad course, do something different, right? Seafood, or go with something, again, plant-based, and just have variety and try to be creative and cutting edge, right?
Which is great, because I went to, this is now a number of years ago, before I even started this company, we went to one really well-known luxury resort, and they served the asparagus on the first day. And then they served more asparagus on the second day, and it didn't look as good as the asparagus on the first day. And then it made an encore appearance on the third day, looking like, please put me out of my misery.
It's again, it's just years of experience and understanding. Look at the whole scope of what you're offering, right? From A to Z, and trying to give our guests, again, something different on every single course, or every single day that, if it's an event, if it's a big company that's here on property. Something unique and different, and not trying to duplicate it.
Right. So now you have a lot of third partners, and we're going to be speaking, with the folks over at Zouk after we speak with you. So how do you liaise between somebody else who has a space here versus strictly what you're in charge of? How does the delineation of responsibilities kind of work in that scenario?
That's a great question. So in regards to Resorts World Own, right, we're fully involved. Our partnership restaurants. Again, it's like a 50-50. We support them more so on the purchasing,
right? I was gonna say supplies,
warehouse supplies, correct. Any other items that they might need assistance with, we're always there to help. With our lease partnership restaurants, it's kind of the same thing. They'll ask us, hey, we have an emergency. We ran out of asparagus. Can you help assist? Absolutely. This is what we're here. We have, again, 42 outlets that we can grab asparagus from some other venue and help you out for the day. Or if you're down a body and you need some help to get through the push, the night, the night push, we need assistance. We're there to help you.
Nice. I really like that. So, Suzanne, one of the most interesting things is happening here. They continue, since they've opened in June, to open up new food and beverage outlets. I'm sorry, Chef, I'm blanking on the name, but you guys are being really gutsy, or maybe it's just really smart, opening the first vegan restaurant here on the Strip. I guess its time has come. When you're talking the most meat and potatoes city in the world, going vegan, I got to hear more about this, because I'm a guy, like I just said, I'm a reductarian, or whatever they're calling it these days. I would like to eat more plant-based foods, but as a guy that was brought up, again, in that meat and potatoes world, I don't know how to cook those foods. I don't know how to create things that are interesting, but I'm open and I'm listening, and I can't wait to see what you're up to. What are you guys up to?
So as you mentioned, we are opening our first plant-based restaurant here on the Strip, or in Vegas, I would say. Chef Tal Ronan, he's a visionary, wonderful chef. I've had the opportunity to work for him for about 11 years now. And the first time that I met him as a chef, and I'll be 100% honest, I was a little skeptical, like, okay, plant-based, all this vegan. I'm like, I know how to cook vegetables. He opened my eyes and all my former colleagues.
That's awesome.
To a whole nother world of cooking healthy, again, plant-based dishes that blow your mind. And when I tell you blow your mind, he came on property and he worked with our main kitchen chefs that produce food for all the team members here at Resorts World. And looking at their faces when they tried the dishes, and they were just like puzzled and
Right.
couldn't believe that this meatball was plant-based. It wasn't a meat product. And to hear all the comments throughout the property saying like they're so excited to have Crossroads, which is the name of the restaurant.
That's a great name for it, because I do think when it comes to culinary and the way that we treat our bodies, we are at indeed a crossroads right there.
100%.
Right? So I used to be like, when it came to vegetarian foods, I used to be like, why are you trying to pretend that this ground up vegetable is a rack of ribs? It's not a rack of ribs. It's never going to be a rack of ribs. But now it seems food technology has gotten so good that it can be that rack of ribs. I've had those Impossible burgers without even knowing it was an Impossible burger. And I'm like, this is one of the most incredible burgers I've had in my life. So how do you think food technology combined with creativity is really opening up the opportunity for a place like Crossroads to find success?
I think, and that's a great point, because we've had guests that come in and, would have, I don't know if you've heard of Guardian chicken or like the Impossible burger.
Right.
If they're vegan or plant-based, have their diets, they're like, why would I want to eat something that reminds me of chicken or beef? Which I totally get it, right? I totally understand. But
let's celebrate what this ingredient is.
Correct. Correct. But then again, you look at others that are wanting to eat healthier, right? I think that's kind of where we're leading, or the trend is leading towards, and technology, as you mentioned, how do we make it look approachable and not just say, here's a bunch of vegetables on a plate, enjoy. Actually, you have substance, right? You have a main protein, like again, the meatballs that we had, that people were like, this is plant-based. This is not, this is not meat, beef or pork. And it gives the mind, like, it just opens up your mind and understanding that, look, there's a lot more out there and that you can enjoy, that tastes great and that is healthy for you.
Right.
And I think that's an interesting point, is the way in which things have kind of transitioned, right? When many of these products came out, maybe they weren't quite the best products. And I think over time, we've been able to enhance that experience. Even our chef here at Indian River State College, when I was talking about something, I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I picked up these cookies and they're gluten-free. And she was like, no, you know what? You'd actually be surprised. They actually probably aren't that bad. And so to that point, I think we've come a long way, but to then re-educating people to say, yes, this is a product and it actually does taste great, and get you to get out of that traditional comfort zone is so important.
Right. All right. So I do want to say, for some reason, LinkedIn comments just do not seem to be coming through again on this. So if you want to ask a question, go on one of our Facebook pages that are out there. But Daniel's asking, hey, chef, who's your mentor in the world of talented chefs, or in the industry, or maybe even someone that mentored you locally?
Oh, that's a great question. So my mentor would be Alex Strada. I worked for him for about 9 years.
Oh my God. Before you continue, Alex at Wynn was one of the best restaurants I've ever been to in the world. I had the most incredible 18-course meal, I think, there. And the day that closed, I wore all black for a month. I was so sad about that. Please continue about Alex.
But that would be my mentor. And from the day that I staged at his restaurant at the Mirage back in the day, and just to see a passionate chef, the day that he started grabbing the trash cans and emptying them out because we were so busy, and then he jumped on the dishwashing line to help the lady, I looked at that and said, that's the type of chef that I want to become.
Right.
Involved in the whole process, not just creating the food and making it taste great, but being fully involved in the whole entire operation, because it doesn't matter, right? As the chef, you need your cooks, you need the front of the house team, you need your stewards to make the overall operation, become a success. And that's what I learned from him. And it never had to be about raising your voice. Like you see all these, chefs, Gordon Ramsay and all the persona of a chef.
Yeah.
It's not necessary.
It is not necessary, but it's interesting to see how culture has changed in regards to what's going on in the kitchen since all of those big name chefs were called out, and now we're not even allowed to mention their names anymore. Right.
Correct.
Yeah. I'll just say crock sales are down significantly. I would think these days. Right. But so that's fascinating to me. Now, Hashimoto, are you of Japanese heritage?
I am.
That's interesting. So do you feel that because you're of Japanese heritage, at any point in your career, you kind of got pigeonholed in having to do those kinds of foods? Or have you always felt like you could cook any food? Because I'm starting to find, like, we all want to cook every food because all food is great. But sometimes chefs, if they're not of the right nationality, all of a sudden you're not allowed to cook those types of foods. So what has your experience been like that, either on one side or being pigeonholed into a certain category?
Growing up in Hawaii, I was given the opportunity to try a diverse culture of, again, more so Asian cuisine.
Right.
Coming to Las Vegas for the first time, right out of high school, and given the opportunity to work in Vegas, and having the opportunity to jump from a steakhouse, from production, to go to Italian restaurant,
right, to
eventually lining up in a French restaurant. It broadened my perspective.
Right.
Back in the day, it was never about, again, to your point, being pigeonholed into a specific cuisine. It was like, get the best talented cook who can cook a nice piece of steak,
right,
or a piece of fish, and we're bringing that guy onto our team.
That's awesome.
I think that's the same mentality we look at here, is to find the right candidate, the right chef, irregardless of the background. If he's an Asian guy cooking Italian, it's what you've learned throughout the years of your experience that makes you a great chef.
Right. I agree. And it really frustrates me that if somebody who I remember there was a story about two white women who had a food truck, and it was all Mexican type foods because they happened to genuinely love that type of cuisine. And then they got pilloried for simply wanting to make Mexican food. Like, just because your heritage is different, you're not allowed to love somebody else's food. So that really bothers me.
But that's why I think cooking in general is awesome, because again, I know the word fusion is overused, but again, it is what it is, right? You take
I'll take your fusion and raise you bleisure. How's that?
But that's what makes it so interesting. That's why you can never stop learning.
Right.
That's why we're butchering a pig on campus today. I've got a bunch of students in our kitchen. I sent Glenn pictures. I'm like, want some fork?
Yeah.
But they're learning those skills, and that's what's so important. So that
let me now do one of my famous segues. Over at Famous Foods, one of the outlets over there has whole pig every single day. Isn't that true?
That's true. Pepitas.
Yes.
Lechon diva.
Yeah. And that's pretty cool. And Suzanne, next time you're here, you've got to check out the Famous Foods food hall. It is, to me, the most exciting food and beverage program in a food hall that I've ever seen here in Las Vegas. Maybe I'm prejudiced because my taste profiles go towards Asian flavors, and there's a high emphasis on that in here. But it is so cool to see that collection. What was it like putting together a collection of all these incredible street foods that were found throughout different places in the world?
That was, again, a Genting and Resorts World combination of a creation that our chairman and the visionary model that he wanted to bring here to Resorts World Las Vegas was get the best of the best throughout Southeast Asia and Asia and bring it right here. The authenticity of those stalls was what he wanted to capture, right? The video content, the actual dishes. And it was challenging. And to do a one-on-one FaceTime Zoom call with the chefs there and say, did you get our recipe? We got it. We're testing it now. And we would hold the camera and watch us, do the roti bread and how we were pulling the bread. And they're like, okay, you're at 80%. Okay, next week you're at 85. You're getting better. And that's how we had to kind of learn the recipes. And it was truly amazing. And like you mentioned, it is one of the most fascinating food and beverage outlets here at Resorts World, to be able to have, the most Michelin Bib Gourmand and the Michelin Plates celebrity, chefs under one roof. This is where it's at.
Yeah. All right. So we're starting to wind down, and you're the executive chef. You're not the person who necessarily went out and made the deals to bring all these places here. But when you're creating a full panoply of food and beverage program at a major casino resort, how do you make sure it's balanced to make sure that you're hitting all of the right things? So, we all know the steakhouse is the steakhouse, and be sure to check out our interview with Sean Christie, CEO of Carver Road Hospitality, from on Monday, and all of the other things that you bring in here to make sure that you're appealing towards all clients instead of just certain potential people.
That's a great question. That's exactly what we wanted to do here at Resorts World, right? Like you mentioned, steakhouse, you cover the grounds for an Italian restaurant, a tapas restaurant, right? A seafood restaurant, a Mexican restaurant, Viva by Ray Garcia, right? We have our fine dining Chinese restaurant, Genting Palace, Kusanori, our modern Japanese restaurant.
I went there. That was amazing.
Amazing chef. Chef Ryan Nukui offers teppanyaki. We have a nice sushi bar, and his creative dishes. It's mind blowing. But again, then you have Famous Foods, right? We have Dog House, the more casual,
Yep.
you know, your burgers and dogs, Suns Out, Buns Out, your breakfast sandwich area. Hoo, you got the Asian fusion now involved, you know, with the vibe dining. And it's to your point, we want to have something for everyone from every scale, right?
Yep.
Casual, quick service, and then fine dining, but keeping in mind that we want to have that element of service.
I will
Service
tell
and
you,
great food.
will tell you what's for me. Suns out, buns out. Love getting those egg sandwiches in the morning,
Yeah.
and then maybe a couple hours earlier in the middle of the night, get one of those great burgers that they have over there and some of those donuts. Oh, that place.
Hey,
is
look,
so
we got them listing names of the restaurants and some of the chefs. See, we're getting there. We're like almost halfway there to your whole list.
All right, so last question for you, Chef, before we move on to our next guest over here. Our friend Daniel is saying, hey, can you what have you created at home or maybe for an event that you could share that's uniquely you, and I will be like every other food TV show on the planet that is you on a plate?
Wow, that's a good question.
Yeah.
You know, I think because at home I try to cook comfort food, simple,
Right.
nothing crazy for my family and my kids. So I guess at work, I think that's where I'll transition to use what my mother had cooked for me growing up, and try to, you know, different restaurants that I worked at is try to, how do you pull that comfort food dish into a more elevated experience and using maybe the same, you know, protein or vegetable concept and just taking it to the next level. I think that's what challenges chefs to, again, to be creative and unique, but using that, you know, something that touches the heart, right? Growing up and the comfortness of having mom's home cooked meal, but taking it to the next level. I think that's the challenge that we all, you know, as chefs get excited for.
And even more challenging because you don't want to make it too complicated, because right now we're in a trend of keeping it simple, let the ingredients speak for themselves. So you're striking a right balance there all the time.
Exactly.
Right. Awesome. Where should we, this is going to be a tough one. Where should I eat tonight and why? And then give us a good plug for anything that you'd like.
So you mentioned earlier you dined at Kusanori.
Right. And I had Wally's last night.
Okay.
And I'm going to Carver Steak on Friday.
Okay. So I'd have to say Fuhu.
Yeah. All right. Fuhu.
Go head to see Chef Joseph Elevato. Fantastic chef. I've known him for over 20 years now. Amazing food. I mean, he brings a little bit of everything to that restaurant, and trust me, you
that's
will not
great. And will actually be a great segue to our next interview, since our next guest, their company operates Fuhu right over there.
Awesome.
So thanks for that, Chef. Thank you so much. You're amazing.
It was a pleasure.
That was a real pleasure. Thank you. I hope I get to talk to you off mic later. Take care. Be good. All right, so we're gonna get our next guest in here right now. So while we're waiting on that, Suzanne, are you hungry? That's a question I got for you.
I am ridiculously hungry, but I was wise enough to actually grab myself some lunch before today's show because I had a feeling based on the other one that I was going to get hungry today.
Yeah, well, listen, I will tell you what. I love the food and beverage program here, and I promise I'm going to eat plenty. But I'm going after this. I'm doing some custom content for a company later this afternoon. And they made me happy because they are bringing in and out burgers. So let's bring on our next guest, Michael Waltman, Executive Director of Zook Operations. What do you think of In-N-Out there, Michael?
Love a double-double.
Right?
Not gonna lie.
Right. All right, Michael, now the camera's on the left side of the iPad in the middle. If you could keep their eyes on that, and that'll be great. So Zook Operations, it's a company out of Asia. Is that correct, Michael?
Yeah, correct. The club's been operating for over 30 years in Singapore. So it's funny because we took over a brand that means something so much to a lot of people in Singapore, but we have to introduce it here domestically. So big opportunity for us, and it's been great so far to do so.
So over here at Resorts World, they're operating the Zouk Nightclub, the IU Day Club, a variety of food and dining outlets. But I got to tell you, man, you got a big challenge in order to create your own name because there were so many established players in this town. So it's interesting that you're going to be able to wedge yourselves in there, but obviously you're bringing in great talent to help get your name out there. But what is that process like, coming in as an unknown entity into a city like this where there's already a huge nightlife day club scene?
Well, thank you for appreciating that that challenge that we have. But we're up against brands that are global, that are been around for over a decade. So yes, it is challenging. But it's been great, right? Because a lot of us came from those brands, right? So we're able to kind of carve out what we feel was maybe missing or what makes us unique. So again, it's
That's interesting.
A lot about the culture is what we preach here.
Right.
We find that, when you come into the club, it's a lot more, it's friendly, right? Like it can be intimidating walking into a day club or a nightclub.
Yeah, totally.
So we make that there.
Well, I will say, not for me, not with this body. I'm like, I post 50 gorgeousness. Take a look, baby. Yeah.
And then listen, it doesn't hurt when you sign Tiesto, Zed, Jack Harlow, and then the associations with the brands there. And again, we're only 7 months in, but I feel like we've made a lot of progress, but we got a lot to go.
That's great. So you actually worked for one of the other companies in town before?
Yeah, I worked for the Win the last previous 11 years.
That's pretty cool. So you probably knew Sean Christie, who was our guest on.
Sean hired me. I was a food and beverage hotel guy, and he said, "Yeah, you can figure this out." So he gave me my first opportunity in nightlife.
That's pretty cool. And guys, again, I've said it a couple of times. Please check out Monday's show if you missed it, because it's a real fascinating interview about the early days from when he came, when the boutique nightclub scene started, the real transformation of the major nightclubs began, and telling that whole story, which gets us to now. How are you creating products today that are going to appeal towards that next generation? Now, I got to, during the Great Recession, I had a lot of opportunity to check out all of the nightclubs, and I really saw where they were at. But now everyone's got these phones. Everybody's attention spans are different. The playing field seems to be entirely different than what it was 10, 15 years ago. So how are you programming a nightclub and a day club to really appeal to those folks and get them to buy that precious, precious bottle service from you?
Absolutely. And, it's funny that you say that, because you're actually appealing for what somebody can put on their Instagram.
Right.
I mean, even in Fuhu, that whole floral entry is strictly because people you find taking their photo there. But in the club, we have two things going on. Like Zouk Nightclub, you're immersed in what is an amazing LED. Our mothership's moving, so there's a lot. There's actually, it's a bit overwhelming sometimes for people when they initially come into the club, but that's what we want. We want to create that, the sound. There's really not a bad seat in the house, right? So everybody has access to the DJ. But then creating those experiences, like everybody wants to be on stage, but you really, unless you're with the DJ or you purchase that table, that's the kind of way to kind of create those experiences for them. And then obviously bottle service, right? Do people really buy, 12 liters of champagne because it tastes better, or is it the attention with the what comes out with it? And we have a large ice cream truck, that 6 girls can hop into, a tuk-tuk and Star Wars characters. So again, there's a lot of different things that we do to kind of create those experiences. And then you go outside.
So it's much more than a sparkler than it used to be.
Correct.
They'd be like,
I remember at Blush, which is the initial club.
Yeah, and again, we talked about that club specifically on Monday. Please continue.
And amazing place. Yeah, Sparkler came out. It was a big deal, right?
Totally. That place was really transformative in its day.
5,000 square feet, but it packed a punch. And that, I feel like that's similar to Zouk Nightclub. Zouk is, 55 tables, but it holds its own with all the mega clubs, and pound for pound, my belief is probably the best nightclub right now, like in the country.
Wow.
And again, people are kind of getting to experience it. And, it helps that we have that big talent in there, but it's really an amazing space. But then it's connected to a day club that's on the Las Vegas Strip, but you feel like you're in Bali or Tulum.
That's pretty cool.
That was something that was really a focus, right? You go to a lot of the day clubs in town, which Vegas has done a great job of capturing and, creating this day club scene, but they're all kind of like concrete jungles, they're at the end of the day, it's a pool, and it's the deck and that's it. So
that's interesting. You should say that, because at first that was good enough because it was the new thing, right? When you had clubs like, day clubs like, Bear, for example, which I think was one of the first one. That was a European style day club out of Mirage. You just kind of had to block off an area and go, this is special. Now you have to create something entirely different. I remember when Venetian and Palazzo had like a day club out there. It was basically just a couple of folding tables by a pool or something like that, right?
And a DJ booth, right?
Yeah.
But like now, there's you walk around there, and again, there's a lot of what we call Instagrammable moments, right? Like again, where we want people to be able to take a photo in the venue, and without tagging us, people know, oh, they're at IU Day Club.
Right.
So, and that was important for us, because people Vegas has lived off of kind of creating one place, but we have the Paris Hotel here, all these things. So you could come to Vegas and get that day club experience, but feel like maybe you were somewhere in Mexico or, somewhere, in Bali. So that is something unique to the space that, we really like. And we kind of play off of the marketing and everything else that kind of goes on with it, the uniforms.
Right. That's pretty interesting. Suzanne?
It's certainly more of an immersive experience that you're trying to create for your consumers. And so to hear new pieces coming into the city, and I think that's what Las Vegas does. It embraces what is that new to keep it so that it's always fresh and wanting to come back. And so on some level, that's also got to be a draining challenge to always be thinking ahead and like, what's the next thing?
Yeah, we have some great brainstorming meetings, and some of the stuff comes out, it seems good, and then we need a couple people to bring us down to earth, so what's health department approved, what the fire department would allow, So, but yeah, but that's the fun part of it, I think that, for us in this industry, that's what drives us, what is something, because we see it every day, you forget people come, and especially circumstances or people are getting ready to book their March trip. It's freezing all over the country right now. They're just dying to kind of come back.
Yep.
So that's what kind of, drives us, or you're going to come here. And what we call in our group is does that give you goosebumps? Right. Is it making the hair on your neck stand up just talking about it? Okay. That's something that we're going to start doing.
Right. That's really cool. Now, besides the nightclub and the day club, you have some products out there that appeal more towards somebody like me. I'm past that nightclub, day club thing. I envy the kids who could go to these day clubs and they still go to a nightclub, right? I mean, that's amazing. So I like the idea of Redtail, which is a social style gaming bar, and you get your cocktails and all of that. You got burgers, small plates, and all of that kind of stuff. But I love that you're adding some of the gaming elements. You can do karaoke, you can play beer pong, darts, billiards, all of that type of stuff. Why did you choose to go ahead with that type of concept? And how do you feel that's really addressing what people want from a Las Vegas experience today?
Yeah, there's a lot of layers in that room because, the nightclub's not for everybody.
That's right. And there's no shame in that. No. I think we're in a world of you need to create products that are geared towards specific groups of people in order to really maximize profitability.
Exactly. And, people want to have a good time. Maybe they just don't want to go to a normal bar. So again, all those games, we have some of the coolest beer pong tables. They're interactive. They light up. Yep. So again, it's fun. It's how do you get people interactive. One thing that we did see, especially when we were designing the space, is that sports became a really big deal when people couldn't go to the games, and people love to bet on sports probably more now than ever before.
Oh, yeah.
So you can place wagers in Redtail, so again, it's a great place for people to watch the games, but again, if you're not interested in watching the games, maybe you're playing the life-size Jenga. Right. We have 3 karaoke rooms. So it's very, again, sensory kind of overload. You walk down that hallway, there's just a lot going on, and people look in, they want to be a part of it. We've done live bands in there now. I don't know if you've heard of Steel Panther.
Yes, absolutely. They've been playing in this town for many, many years.
Yes. And just again, driving that energy in there. And one of the things we found is that, everybody, when the club gets going, they line up, and they actually line up across Redtail because the line goes all the way down the hallway. But that group that loves that space is also getting an amazing show of watching everybody come into the club.
Right. And that is a show. It is. I used to just walk around that level at Cosmopolitan just to watch the people online at Marquee.
Yeah. But now you're playing a game and you're having a drink and you're getting to enjoy the show. So all those things kind of encompassing each other, and it's just really great. And we kind of get the district hallway there. So we kind of create that energy and, again, create the different opportunities. Cause I heard you're going to go to Fuhu for dinner tonight.
It looks that way,
which I highly recommend. So Chef Joe Elevato, who's our executive chef of Zouk Group, is amazing. But again, he's done the food in Fuhu and Redtail, because Redtail is not just, it's gastropub. The food quality is very high. So you can get a great meal there. But even now, Fuhu is a slightly elevated experience from even Redtail. So again, we think about it, because if I go out of town, a nightclub's probably not what I'm looking to do. I'm trying to get away. Yeah. But I definitely want a scene, and I want to have a couple cocktails, maybe a couple more than normal. So Fuhu gives you that kind of opportunity where you can get this great meal, great service, but kind of get that loungy vibe too, especially as the night escalates. And again, not sacrificing. Sometimes you go to places where it's like a club restaurant, you got to sacrifice food and service. we want to provide all those things. But again, maybe you want to be in there till midnight. And again, you're watching kind of the crowd come through and you're seeing the who's who. And, that's probably where you're going to see Tiesto or Zed dining before their show. Right. And again,
that's pretty cool. I mean, if I was totally into that scene, I would be like, this is awesome,
Yeah. And again, like that's like a great place where our customers like to go before they go to the club because it's so easy for them to get in.
Yeah.
But then we got a lot of great customers that maybe they're not going to the club that night or they're not interested, but they definitely want something vibrant and fun and they don't want to sacrifice the food and service as well.
So let me go back to the nightclub portion for just a second. Back in the day when all these nightclubs started, it was just good enough to be able to get in with bottle service. You wait on a little line. But now people really want experiences that are catered to just them, and their patience level for waiting and stuff like that is really low. How are you making sure that everybody actually feels like a VIP when they come in to help create the mood for them once they get inside and seated?
Great question. And technology's helped change that a lot.
Yeah.
So, if you probably think of a club, like when you're talking about, 2008.
Well, I just remember having to go find the guy and give them my name, and then everyone was giving me dirty looks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, probably a big guy, clipboard.
Yeah, exactly right. I don't see your name here. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's right there.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
And I think the involvement and probably, some of what you probably talked to Sean about is this has become a hospitality. This has become a big business industry. Yep. So what we've done is we've created, you can go online and you can buy a ticket into the club, because in those days there was no way to buy a guaranteed entry. It was probably there weren't even like lines. It was just like they'd like to mass everybody out.
It was crazy.
People wave money or do whatever they could to get in the club. But now you can buy a regular ticket and that'll get you your guaranteed entry. Or also you could sell you an expedited ticket, and that you're not going to wait in line.
Nice.
So that's how we've evolved this,
right?
And then the same thing goes like with the tables. Like now, like tables are set up. There's minimums, and you can kind of buy into an experience where if it's your wife's birthday or something like that, we'll have her on the LED, as you walk in, and all the 32 panels in the roof. So that's how this has evolved. And again, it's kind of it's just like going to a hotel. Like, are you going to stay in a regular king room, or do you want the presidential suite?
Right.
And we're able to offer you all that, and you can get it online, or online will direct you to one of our hosts.
Michael, it's actually a little bit more like what Disney World is doing, for example.
Fast.
Finding different ways to monetize different elements, right? Because if I was still a club kid and going to those things, the thought of having to wait for 45 minutes on a line is, I'd be apoplectic. So I definitely would pay to get that easy access, because we're talking about how much money I'm spending per hour to enjoy my evening, and I'm not enjoying my evening over there. So really super clever, Michael.
Yeah, any kind of VIP that you can buy into is big, and we don't take that GA crowd for granted, because without that, you don't have.
Well, that's your base for the night.
Yeah.
Plus, it creates a lot of the excitement around the facility,
and without wrapping our arms around that customer, because that customer is eventually going to be your table customer.
Right.
So we never take that for granted.
Right. They're going to graduate to that, or realize, hey, I could do this with 5 of my buddies, and now it's more affordable for us. And I never realized that.
Yeah, because again, everything in the club is essentially aspirational as they grow.
Daniel's got another great question. Is it totally smoke-free at all? Because culture's really shifted. Back in the day when I was going to those things, I couldn't imagine that could be something smoke-free. Now we have an entire smoke-free casino in this city. How are you approaching that?
So the nightclub, you can smoke in the nightclub, but what we find is that most people aren't smoking. They're actually, most people are vaping.
Yes. And you allow that?
Correct.
Okay. Because there was a little while in town, if you'd vape in a nightclub, they would kick you out. They would rather you smoke cigarettes. I think we all understand why.
Well, we had to figure out what, basically they'll take your vape if it's a weed pen coming in. Right. So that's how you get searched when you come in. But yeah, no cigars.
Right.
That's the one thing that we don't allow inside, because that
that ruins the entire venue.
Yeah, that cigar smoke's not for everybody. But we found that a lot of the younger clientele are smoking vapes, but inside the club it's still kind of, it's like one of those things like with some gaming, is that it's the drinking and association of that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of folks that smoke in nightclubs and at the casino, and then they don't do it the rest of the year when they're at home.
Exactly.
That's very very interesting. How you're doing all this. We're almost out of time here, Michael. This is flown by.
Just getting started.
I know. All right. Well, it's all right. We'll push it a little bit longer, because on the internet we can do that sort of a thing. So, what are you most excited about in your job as executive director? What a cool position to say that you have, executive director of nightlife with this cool company.
Yeah, and it entails a lot.
Yeah.
And the fun part is that, again, when we talked about, we're growing a brand.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not easy, but, being able to be a part of that, I've been a part of it before, but not at this level.
Right.
So that's the exciting part. We're setting the foundation here, domestically for what we're trying to do in the States, but looking at projects outside of Las Vegas already. You see that land that we have out here and kind of getting the idea of what's coming in that way. That's like the kind of, again, when we talk about, creating these opportunities for our guests, but like kind of creating these other opportunities on property. That's the real driver. Cause it's certainly, it's not easy. It's a lot of hours.
No, it is
I've
not
built
easy.
An amazing team. Cause without them, it definitely wouldn't have, the success that we're having right now. But, and again, in finding the right talent, people that are driven, because, attaching yourself to a brand and just kind of riding it is one thing, but, being a part of growing it and evolving it is a much, it's a much bigger task to ask of somebody. So they have to be the right candidate for that.
Right. Beautiful. Michael, thank you so much for being here. You have earned an incredibly shameless plug. Pitch anything that you'd like.
Oh, anything that I'd like?
Anything that you want to promote
So
right now.
we didn't get to talk about Here Kitty Kitty.
All right, so let's talk about that.
So that is our speakeasy. It's located in Famous
Oh shit,
Foods.
dude! I was there last night.
Did you enjoy it?
I loved it.
So
it's so funny because this morning I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I went to that last night. I could talk about it. Then I promptly forgot about it. So it's in the food court, the food hall, and it looks like a convenience store, right? And then it was so cool because you push open like a bookcase wall, and then you're in this club. I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, and it's funny, right? Because we have, you got these great clubs with Tiesto and Zed, and everybody wants to talk, and I'm like, I want to talk about Here Kitty Kitty, 800 square feet.
Yep.
Again, the feel is, like you're in, kind of like a, like a Tokyo hideaway.
Yep.
You kind of get in that brick walls. We decked it all out in Christmas. We blew it out for Christmas, and we made it a Christmas bar. But Ju Young is in there, who's probably, in my opinion, like the best bartender in Las Vegas, nationally acclaimed, but amazing drinks, very cool vibe, dark. And again, something, kind of a break off of the traditional casino bar. Right. And again, providing something, an experience where maybe you didn't want to go to the club. And
it's a place that you could actually have intimate conversations with people. It's really cool, but it's not like a loud type of club environment. Yeah. And listen, the quality of a cocktail, right? I feel like, there's a million bars, but, everybody just wants to make you like a Jack and Coke. Like there's the quality of the cocktail to me is also very important. Yeah. And that team is very passionate about it too. Right. What's your favorite cocktail? It's fun. I go in there and the team goes, Mike, can we make something for you? Beautiful. And that's the best part of it. Yep. Right. So like, I don't think I've had the same cocktail twice. That's beautiful. I love it.
Awesome.
Right? And if you go in there, you don't have to order off the menu. You can definitely give them your direction on your spirit and what you like, and they'll customize it for you. Yeah, I just had a tequila on the rocks, so they didn't have to work too hard. Now that I know he's such a great bartender, I probably should have made me something memorable and special. Oh, we'll do it tonight. Yeah, I love it. Michael, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, man. All right, so much. Awesome. Thank you so much. Suzanne, this has been a fun show. We really got to do a lot. We talked about giving back to the community. We talked about what it's like to create an amazing food and beverage program. We run that on a day-to-day basis. And more importantly, we talked a little bit about how to get your party on when you're here in Las Vegas and what it's like operating behind the scenes. How cool was that?
I am missing out. I think part of the producing duties have to be that I have to go on these trips.
Yeah. Yeah, you really do. You're really missing out here. I'm sorry you screwed up. But I'll tell you what, one thing people aren't screwing up is they're downloading the audio version of our podcast. You get that on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your shows. We will be there for you. Any words of wisdom before we go?
I think you should just make sure that you test out all the cocktails for tonight. Don't stick with the same one. Don't mix too much, but we want to have a little bit more excitement to hear about some of those fun drinks and lots of food that you
tried. Well, speaking of cocktails, tomorrow we are going to be doing Friday Night Audit live. I'm going to be live at Carver Steak. Nobody else will be at Carver Steak with me except Brian Best, their Chief Marketing Officer. And we're going to be sampling some of the bourbon that they've created in partnership from Maker's Mark. They got their own barrels, and they're serving it only to guests over at Carver Steak. That's going to be a whole lot of fun, I think.
So there's no dancing involved, just bourbon drinking this Friday?
I will see how much bourbon I have. I guess that's what we'll find out. You guys, tune in tomorrow 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific for Friday Night Audit. All right, thanks everyone for being here. Remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
See you next week or tomorrow on Friday Night Audit or at one of the bars here at Resorts World. And I'm